Hi, Joey. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Anahit. It's nice to be here.
Oh, I am so excited to talk to you. I've been wanting to talk to you for quite some time. Needless to say, I want to come visit your farm for, you know, always since the minute I found out about it, right? Honestly, I don't think you need any introduction. Honestly, I don't think Alexandra Farm needs any introduction or Garden Roses for that matter, right? But here we are. So, for any florist who's listening to us right now who has no clue what we're talking about, man, you're missing out a lot. Go immediately check out Alexandria Garden Rose Farm. And yes, and then when your chin gets peeled off the floor, come back and listen to us again. So there you go. Hi, Joey.
It's alexandrafarms.com,
Alexandra. There you go.
and we started in 2006
Very
testing
nice.
some David Austin varieties which had just come out to the market. And it was
Right.
really the first professionally trialed test of sending garden roses for the cut flower market with the shipping life and the vase life that florists need in order for a rose to
Mm-hmm.
be a cut flower. That was
Right.
2006. Should I go into that part?
Go for it. Yes. I actually was going to say, can you tell me where did this begin and why you chose this particular avenue? I mean, you could have grown all kinds of flowers, where you're at. So,
Well, I was working for Delaware Valley at the time,
hmm
but I had been in the business for 15 years before that, growing mini carnations, working for importers, working for Gerald Stevens, a retail roll up that occurred in the early 2000s, late
right.
1990s. But at the time I was working at Delaware Valley, they have an importer in Miami called Flower Transfer that would sell flowers like an importer does. And we
Right.
had a small garden rose, a French garden rose farm in Ecuador. And I say
hmm
French because one of the main partners was a breeder from France called Mayand.
hmm
And they sent us these varieties that were so beautiful and so fragrant, but so short lived.
Right.
And our customers all had interest in the product, and we thought there was potential there, but whenever we opened the box, there were all kinds of surprises that weren't good ones.
Mm.
Um, so when we saw the David Austin varieties at the Hortifair show in Aalsmeer that year, we approached them and we said, "Let's try this. Let's see how they do as cut flowers," and that's how we
Right.
started. So we started a tiny plot of land where we had 10 of the David Austin varieties growing, and we would test them. We had to figure out how to grow them and how to sell them.
Right.
So we spent a couple of years doing these tests, and in that time, we were able to find other suppliers with garden rose type products to
hmm
test. And after 3 or 4 years, we actually had a dozen varieties of garden roses that had the vase life and the ship life they needed to be cut
Right.
flowers.
Right.
And we started selling.
Wow.
And since then, we've come a long way because we have 60 varieties now, and the entire cut garden rose market has evolved tremendously since then. We were the only growers for 5 years of this kind of thing. Now you've got
Right.
all kinds of things. You've got garden like cut roses, which
True.
some breeders are doing, and they call them garden like because they're not really garden roses. And we have other lookalikes, and we have the entire industry has somehow realized that this is an important product and that
Right.
people are looking at it and designing with it. And so things have changed. Now you walk into a show and breeders have 3 or 4 varieties that are garden-like. Before that didn't exist. We had to chase these varieties all over the
Mm.
world.
Wow.
We had difficulty finding them.
So, what differentiates them as a garden rose? Like,
Well,
what is that defining factor? They all are
yeah.
grown in a garden. So, why that particular definition and how did that come about?
Well, the actual book definition of a garden rose is that one that survives the winter's frost.
Ah, gotcha. Okay.
So if you grow this rose in your garden and you're in Nebraska, it's going to survive until spring. Um, a lot of the cut flowers varieties don't have that qualification, that quality.
Mm,
So if you plant any of the varieties that arrive in a box from Colombia in your garden, they will die at the first frost. But garden roses tend to survive. Of course, there are garden roses that survive better and others not so good,
of
but
course.
that's in general definition. But we didn't go with that definition for Alexander Farms. We went after the definition of beauty. Because who
Right.
cares if they're in your vase, whether the plant can survive the winter frost or not? What matters is that they're beautiful. So we look
Right.
for those old-fashioned shapes, and the shapes we look for mainly are the cup shapes, which means that instead of having the central petals taller than the side ones like a spiral, they have the
Right.
center petals shorter than the side ones, and they form a cup shape.
Mm-hmm.
And those old-fashioned shapes were very attractive to us, and we thought that the market would really like them. They're old-fashioned roses. People have always
Right.
loved that, even before we existed. And then we looked, of course, for fragrance, which has been bred out of commercially cut roses because it tends to make them shorter lived in the vase. But there are exceptions. There are varieties that we grow that are fragrant and have a vase life, and
Right.
that's that's our niche. That's where we go.
Mm.
Originally, we didn't realize that our market was mostly wedding events because we thought we had a specialty type rose that could be used for anything. But it turns out that it's ingrained in the industry that garden roses are for events. So we had to
Right.
grow the colors for weddings and events. No oranges as often as, and no yellows, very little reds. Now we've been able to convince many florists that our roses are great for vase work, they
Right.
differentiate them from the supermarket. And so
Yes.
now we're starting to see a lot more use of our flowers for everyday work, which we're
Right.
happy to see.
Oh, I am too. And you said a few things that are kind of important. Oftentimes we kind of look back, okay, so how am I going to be different from a grocery store? They're selling orchids now. They're selling like specialty variety orchids at the grocery stores, where it was a thing that you get from the florist. But now the garden roses are sort of that very much separation to where you can actually deliver and long lasting garden roses. And I have played with your particular garden roses many times. And I can say honestly, they do have a great shelf life or vase life, and I mean, Princess Charlotte is as fragrant as it is. It lasts a week.
Princess Charlene. Sorry.
Charlene, that's right. I keep saying that. I've said that to my wholesaler and they keep correcting me and somehow it doesn't stay.
I
Yes,
wonder who
it's,
Princess Charlotte is. Maybe some from
I
your
don't know.
dreams or from a novel
Maybe
somewhere.
there should be another one. I don't
Maybe.
know. But so how do you guys come up with the names?
But wait, no. Let me go back to the part about the differentiation, because
Yes,
this is
please.
key. Florists in the U.S. have been living it for 10 years in a very difficult situation. They're hard pressed by their supermarkets and the WalMarts and the big box stores next to them selling dozen roses for very little money. While they're trying to sell them in a vase with gypsum green or with greens and other things, there's no competition in price. You cannot beat the so the only ways that florists can survive is by using their talents to design, making
Hmm.
great design work, and using flowers that aren't available generally in the supermarkets. We can't
Right,
help with the design, but we can certainly help with the flowers. And our David
right.
Austin, by definition, will never be sold in a supermarket. So you'll never be competing there. And most of our garden roses, if they ever do get into a supermarket, are very high end chains and in very small amounts. So it's not something that's going to, and the florist can really, you cannot compare a dozen
True,
garden roses with regular ones. I mean, they're going to
true.
open up for you. They're going to be fragrant. I think customers would really appreciate the difference.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
Oh,
what I
no,
wanted to say
you're
about that.
no, you're good. I'm glad you actually shared that piece. The funny thing is, I grew up with flowers just surrounding me all the time. I'm from Armenia, and for us, unlike in the US, flowers are a way of living. Just like we go buy bread, we buy bouquet of flowers, and whatever's in season or whatever's blooming in the garden in our summer home or grandparents' home or neighbor's house or whatever, and my grandma specifically had roses. I think they're kind of known as tea roses, or they're making more of, they're super fragrant, and they very much had that cup shape, old fashioned cup shape, smaller in size but shorter stems. But if you cut one stem of that little flower and brought it in, the entire house smelled like that. And honestly, garden roses are the first roses when I started doing flowers, or the first time ever since I came to US and have been in US for some time, smell that again, like my grandmother's garden's roses, and it just nothing compares that. It's just so nostalgic, and yeah, it smells like home to me in many ways. So I have a very, very different connection to them, if that makes any sense.
But everybody has an innate idea of what roses smell like. And everybody
Yeah,
smells the roses as soon as they're close to them. Yeah, it's just a natural tendency. We all do that. And most of the time, we feel disillusioned because there is no fragrance. So when you
true.
finally get something, it's really remarkable.
Right.
And in
It was,
half of our varieties, you will get one. And you know that the fragrances are different. Not all
I
roses
noticed.
smell the same. And
I
that's
agree.
also a fascinating part of the business.
Now, by design, as you're breeding them and doing, your magical genetic slash growing alterations, if you will, I'm not, or crossbreeding or so on. Um, do you guys intentionally sort of plan on, okay, we can potentially create this look, but can we create a fragrance that we're desiring essentially? Is there such thing?
Well, we're not breeders, we're only growers.
Okay,
We test the varieties that breeders create
got
to
it.
see if they work in our markets and in our growing areas.
I see what you're
The
saying.
breeders do try to breed the characteristics that we're looking for into their roses.
Hmm.
For many years, no grower has been looking for fragrance because the overriding requirement is long lasting in shipping. Of
Right.
course, because growers have been moving further and further away from the consumption areas.
Hmm.
Where in the 30s and 40s, you've had rose growers surrounding New York for the New York market. Now you've got growers in Quito sending to Moscow and to Armenia and to all the ex-USSR nations or the United
Right.
States. So the further you are from the market, the hardier you need the rose to be. And
Right.
unfortunately, the characteristics that we like about roses are the opposite of what allow them to ship far. So a rose that ships far usually doesn't open up in the vase. It just sits there.
Right.
It doesn't have a fragrance and it's not charming. And those are the exact qualities that we look for in a rose: fragrance, performance in the vase, and that have charm.
Hmm.
So the breeders do look for they purposefully removed fragrance from the roses in order to get longer shipping lives.
Right.
Now that we've come back and show, we said that we wanted to bring back the romance of fragrance and charm and performance. I think some growers are building it back in.
I'm very happy to see that. And unlike lilies, when they're so fragrant that you're just like, okay, one lily is plenty, thank you. Roses are very different, and it's always very subtle. It's always very sort of, yes, and nostalgic, really. Yeah, and romantic. I agree 100%. The thing that I can say though, my grandmother loved roses, so she had roses, and so as our summer house, we had quite a few of those garden rose varieties. Well, not those particular ones, but just garden roses in general. I don't remember any of them having long stems, so that has to be some serious industry challenge. Making them grow long
Well,
stemmed.
but it's true. Even the garden roses we grow, we don't grow them above 50, maybe a few come out
Right.
60s, but most of our production is 40 centimeters. That's just one of the things that garden rose breeders were never looking for. They were looking for a pretty shrub, not a long
Um,
stem.
True. Yeah,
That's
it's
why they're
interesting.
short.
It's
And we're
interesting
lucky
how it's
that
changing.
they're used for things that don't require length.
True. True. Yeah, I like them. I like them at that length, actually. Anyways, in the first place, unlike the 6 foot tall red roses
Right,
that I've
right,
never
right.
met in person. I still want to. They're fascinating, but
They're fascinating,
not quite what I really
not
am looking
practical.
for, or any of our clients really. Especially if you're doing events and weddings and things like that. So, weather, how does that affect on color variations even within the same breed, right? How hardy the flower is going to be, of course, is giving, but does it affect on the color variation as you're breeding these flowers?
Well, one of the traditional breeders of roses, besides looking for shelf life, also looked for color fastness.
Mm,
So things like Freedom or Vandellas or virtually any commercially available cut rose has the same color in all the places it's grown. Now, there's a
right.
couple of exceptions. Versilia grew in Ecuador a little bit more peachy than in Colombia, and the reds have more dark edging in Ecuador than in Colombia. But for the majority part, you get good color. Garden roses are different. Garden roses, by nature, are are fluctuating in color a little bit. It's weather related, it's temperature related, but it's genetics as well. So we
Mm.
have a variety called Constance, a David Austin variety. It's a beautiful cup shape that has pink blotches with
Mm-hmm.
white around it. Every rose is different. Some are a little bit darker pink with white. Some are a little bit lighter pink with white. We make the bunch so that they're all very similar. But in the
Ah,
box, you might get a bunch that's lighter pink and a bunch that's a little bit darker pink. And of course, we say that that's the beauty of the garden rose, that this bridal bouquet is going to be different from anybody else's bridal bouquet because every rose is unique.
right.
Of course, we sometimes get into trouble because a person is expecting a certain tone of pink
True.
because that's what they bought last time, and this time it's not the same. But I think we've overcome that. I think people have come to get used to that. It used to happen in the beginning more than now. Now I think people have gotten used to that variation and they kind
That's
of
good.
like it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's good to hear. I mean, my learning experience was with quicksand. Every bunch was different. And I'm like, you know
Ah,
what? We're just going to go with that. I mean, they all are beautiful. And there's quite a bit of shade variation in that particular one that I've noticed, as well. And at the end of the day, I think it comes down to us educating our own clients and setting their expectations right. AKA our own expectations, right? And not to call, the wholesaler or the grower and be upset about it that, hey, this one is a bit darker than the one before that. So, I totally understand. So I grow a few flowers here and there. I'm not a grower. I don't do that. Like, I have tiny little yard around the house things. But even those tiny little pieces that I grow, it is so complicated. It's so much work. My goodness.
where are you located, Anahit?
I'm in Maryland.
Oh, you told me, right?
So
Okay, so you have
yeah, so
winter,
we're in Maryland. So I have 4 seasons, almost. Well,
right?
I call it more like a 2 season and a split second in between. Our fall and spring seems super short, you know. But anyways, and I have a lot of deer. I have a lot of
Oh,
deer. I have rabbits and I have squirrels. So, if I plant a tulip, if the squirrel didn't dig it, as soon as it starts growing, if the rabbit doesn't get to it, the deer's for sure gonna eat it. So, I can only grow
hard.
so many things. Yeah.
Yes, of course.
So what are some of the
Well,
biggest challenges for you?
well, in
Oh, go ahead.
Colombia, we have the perfect weather it's also in Ecuador. We have the perfect weather. It's spring weather all year. We used to have a rainy season and a dry season, but now that seems to have been mixed up. But the
Right.
temperature is always warm in the day and cool at night, and that's the perfect temperature for flowers.
Right.
Plus, Colombia is at 2,800 meters, so the quality of the roses is fabulous. It's the exact right place to grow roses.
That's
Same with Kenya
fantastic.
because we're on the same latitude. And of course,
Right.
you'll notice that a lot of the world production is going to these places because of the weather. It's perfect. We don't need to heat our greenhouses. We don't need to light
Right.
them in the winter. We don't need to spray CO2 in them or anything. It's the appropriate place for sustainable rose growing.
That's fantastic. And you're right, majority of the world's roses, that's where they're coming from. So what are some of the biggest challenges that you face as a grower? It's a loaded question, I know.
Now, no, but now we have problems that we never imagined. We are growers of a we are our product is an agricultural product, so it depends on climate. So that's the first thing, right? So sometimes
Yes.
we have 3 weeks of garden roses specifically are affected when you have 3 weeks of cold temperatures or you have gray days for more than 3 weeks. The flowers go dormant. They think it's the beginning of winter, and they don't care if you have a Valentine's Day coming up or anything. They go dormant. So the climate is the first thing, right? That's a major challenge. Then you've got all of the logistics, right? We're in an underdeveloped country, and we have to refrigerate and cold chain our product into a developed country, and that's not always easy.
Mm,
There's airplane problems, airport problems. There was once a volcano in Iceland that sent ashes all over Eastern Europe, Western Europe, and we couldn't get airplanes in there, so we couldn't get our flowers there. I mean, anything that happens in the world affects our ability to get flowers. There, the tsunami in Japan, we
right.
couldn't export anything there for months.
Wow.
Well, of course,
And
COVID
and I was gonna say,
didn't
and
help.
COVID, I'm sure just derailed
And we have
everything.
currency exchange rate fluctuations.
Yes.
So if the peso becomes strong, like it did for 10 years between 2000 and 2010, we had the same amount of dollars, but they were converted into less pesos. So we had less to pay for
Right.
the employees, less to pay for the fertilizer.
Right.
Now it's okay. It's at a level that is sustainable, but you never know when it's going to go down. That's
Oh,
another issue.
absolutely. Yeah.
And in the past 2 weeks, I don't know if you're aware, but in Colombia we have these huge violent protests on the street.
I
It
heard.
happened in Chile and in Ecuador a few years back.
Yeah.
In Colombia, we've never had it this bad. It
Really.
seems that very bad people took advantage of peaceful protests to start looting and burning and breaking, so much so that last week we were unable to ship one box of flowers Monday, Tuesday,
Really.
Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. All of those flowers went to the compost heap. Only Saturday
Oh,
were we able again to export. It's never happened. All these problems that we've had have never affected us as bad as this issue
an
has.
internal protest.
Yeah, and Colombia
Wow.
is well. I mean, we have guerrilla, but we are the longest-standing democracy in South America. We're stable. We've always paid our bonds. Uh,
Right.
so we're a relatively stable, good country, and yet this
Wow.
happened last week. Awful.
That's so funny. I actually do have some family friends. They are Colombian, and they they left the country, oof, years ago when the whole cartel situation was just in really bad place. That's when they left the country, and he took his family out of the country and came here with the kids, or one child at a time, and then the rest of them were born here. I've heard so many stories about how long Colombia came, and they're like, you can actually go there as a tourist. Yes, it is a still, underdeveloped country, but it's actually safe. Just know what you're doing, don't be stupid about your whereabouts, but you can actually go visit now. And now you're saying this, it's just kind of,
We've
huh,
gone
heaven.
backwards.
Right, it just
We've
seems
gone
that way a
backwards.
bit.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
shame. I'm hoping that it's temporary and things get back to normal very quickly, and it might be that. We've been able to ship flowers since Saturday to now with not much of a problem, although we hear of some
right.
protests further away. Crossing our fingers that things get back to normal and we'll have a stable country again.
Yeah, wow, I'm sorry to hear that. I it's funny. You don't think about these things, right? So if I had a wedding and I couldn't get those garden roses, telling my bride there are protests in Colombia and I couldn't get those garden roses, they're gonna look at you like you have five heads. But
Yeah,
how
yeah.
incredibly interesting is that I knew about the protests in Colombia again through I have Colombian friends, and I watched the news, but I didn't need garden roses, so I did not know it actually affected on the shipment. Would not
Yeah.
even think about that.
Well, in the States, you'll get from Ecuador, you get from Holland of roses, but there will be a scarcity of roses. Now, people are probably not finding as many things as they would normally find because even
Yeah,
supermarkets, they're not getting fed their regular amount of roses right now.
yeah,
There's a little delay between us not shipping and the supermarkets not receiving, but we're
I see what
starting
you're
to get
saying.
into that window where people are going to feel a scarcity. So there's scarcity from COVID, and there's scarcity from the protests.
There's definitely
It's a
this
crazy world.
yeah. Well, there's definitely this talk going around right now among florists about the flower shortage. I've heard it over and over and over again. I haven't had a problem procuring anything that I needed. So, is it a perceived shortage? How real is this shortage really? Or are we just
Well, the
freaking
prices
out
in
like
the
the toilet paper?
no, there's definitely a supply chain issue.
Okay,
And you can measure it by the prices in the auctions in Holland.
of
They've
course.
never been so high, which means that there's less supply than there normally is. Now, that doesn't mean
Gotcha.
you won't get anything. It just means you have to be a little bit more flexible. And so the times when this white rose was preferable to this white rose, well, any white rose will do these days because you may not have so many choices. So I think that
True.
it isn't that there aren't going to be any flowers for us to buy. It's just that we're going to have to be a little bit more flexible in what we take. And
Mm,
it's not so bad because, oh, this white is actually nice. I haven't used it in a couple of years, but it actually works well.
right.
People will become more flexible by obligation, and that'll be okay. I hope
Right.
they'll continue to be flexible because we are in a business that's agricultural and international. So
That
things
is
will
true.
happen, and you may not always get what you want. You get what you
Well,
need.
also, I feel like also it'll actually push people to think outside of the box, perhaps, or their comfort zone. So
Sure,
I
sure,
expect to see a little more creativity as well,
sure,
sort
right?
of not falling back to the comfort place or, just kind of maybe pushing the envelope a little bit. So I'm kind of not super sad about it. I am sad, however, all those flowers going in a compost. That's heartbreaking. I'm sorry. That's just
Oh,
not,
and
no, yeah.
and and it's really bad for the psyche of the employees after all this work
Oh, yes.
of planting and cropping and growing and fertilizing and watering and cutting and packaging, and then it all goes to the trash. It's awful. It hurts them so as much as it hurts us.
Yeah, no, I
But I
bet.
was going to say something about this scarcity will also, I think, help florists and wholesalers work together.
Mm.
Unfortunately, sometimes it seems the relationship between the whole chain is a confrontational relationship rather than a collaborational experience. So the florist is trying to buy from the cheapest source, and if you don't get it to me like that, I'm going to buy it somewhere. And then the wholesaler is also looking at farms and saying, when there's a scarcity like this, we all come together. I mean, we start rowing at the same time because wholesalers kind of depend on the grower depends on the wholesaler,
Mhm.
and the wholesaler, the
Mhm.
florist, on them, and we all work together in a much smoother, better way. And so florists
Right.
give their information to the wholesaler. They know who's going to have it in advance, more in advance than before, and they buy most of their goods from the same wholesalers, or they build a relationship, and that might be good in the long run.
Yeah. No, I agree. I definitely agree. I mean, they're like example's sake, I mean, I have so many places to buy flowers from, and tend to go where the relationships are,
Excellent.
not the prices, really. Honestly, I've been working with Potomac Wholesaler since the day I started. And in all reality, they were the only wholesaler when I walked in and I said, "Hey, I'm nobody. And I kind of want to explore flowers and see if I want to do this perhaps as a business." They were the only ones. They're like, "Not a problem. Come on in." I'm like, "Well, I know nothing. I know that's a rose, that's a carnation. That's just about how I know." And they literally took me under their wing and every question I had. And I've had such positive experience. For me, you know, I don't care if I'm going to pay a few dollars more to them compared to perhaps another wholesaler that I can potentially work with that I have no relationship with, or local growers, right? There's so many local farms here that are growing amazing tulips and dahlias and all peonies and so on. There are a few of them that I absolutely adore, but I love what they do. And it costs much more to buy flowers from them than it is from the wholesaler or another cheaper source. But again, it goes back to the relationship. It really does. I mean, for me at least. So yeah. Anyways, and it makes me
Oh,
feel good
relationships
that
are
they're being
key.
supported. Yeah.
Absolutely. You have to trust. You have to trust your supplier, and that comes with relationships.
Yep. 100%. Well, Joey, I want to segment into your cool, exciting things coming up. Let's talk about your contest.
Well, we're really excited. This is going to be the
I love
third
it.
year. Is it the
Yep.
third year or the fourth?
I think it's
We
the
had it
fourth.
last year during COVID, and we were successful. Lots of people submitted stuff, which was great. We didn't expect that
Fantastic.
much, and this year we're doing it again, and I think it's a great excuse to just design with garden roses for fun,
I
not to
agree.
not to the bride's taste, but to your own taste, and submit that. We expect 300 or 400 submissions. That's what we've had in the past. The
Wonderful.
judges are David Austin himself, myself, and I don't know if I think Holly is going to be
Okay.
our other judge. Um,
Fantastic.
Yeah, and so we get to see all kinds of great creative ways people use garden roses. I've seen horses decorated with their mane full of garden roses. I've seen just
Nice.
tremendous things, and it's really fun for us to do that. We get lots of media for our social media needs.
Mm-hmm.
It's great fun, and it starts now. You can get the information at our webpage, and it ends June 15th, I think.
Yep.
Um, and then we do a short triage where we select maybe the top 100, and then the judges vote in a blind test
Nice.
And then we announce the winners. And the winner, the first prize is a trip to the farm, which we hope. I don't think we'll be able to do it this year, but we hope we'll be able to do it next year. And it's a really fun trip. You get to see the people that actually grow the flowers, and we set up a big room full of all of our new varieties because we're going to ask the winner which ones they like, which ones they don't like, why, if this color is nice. So they become
Mm,
part of the selection process of our new varieties, which is
right.
fun for them and great for us because we learn every time a designer comes to our farm.
Right. Oh,
And we have all of
fantastic.
our regular varieties out there, so they can just design and do work, and it's a lot of fun. And then the second and third prize winners get a bunch of stems of garden roses for whatever. So I
So
think it's fun.
I competed in one of them. It was when you guys sent I think two bunches
Yes,
of garden roses.
yes.
It was, I'll tell you, it wasn't even just the thing of competing. It was just a thing of like opening that box straight from the farm and those beautiful flowers in it. It was just so fantastic. And you get to choose what you wanted. I mean, as a designer, it doesn't get any better. I mean, that was just the best thing, best feeling ever opening that box. It's like, I don't care if I win. This is so exciting. It's
Well,
like
you know
you're in
that
a
I think
candy shop.
we're giving the top we're giving those 20 that we select are getting some free flowers. Everybody's getting 48 free
That's
flowers. Yeah.
fantastic.
Well,
Ah,
it's really cool for us too to get these new varieties into your hands because the chain is so long that when we have something new,
true.
sometimes the people we want to see it don't see it for a long time. So this is a way of getting our flowers into the hands of people that we
Right.
want to show them to.
Oh, that's so exciting. I cannot wait. And I actually love seeing those entries too, when people are,
Oh,
especially
the
when
entries are
leading
great.
up to like the top 10 and kind of starts heating up. It's fantastic. So if you're listening and you haven't submitted yet, oh my goodness, just do so. Give yourself an excuse to go and buy a bunch of garden rows and play with it.
Oh,
Really.
and you know that we've set it up in such a way that it is during wedding season. So if you have a wedding and you use
There
garden
you
roses,
go.
take a picture of that and send it in. You don't have to create something just for us. You can use something you've done
Fantastic.
before. It's okay. And here I have the information on it. It's there's two categories. There's everyday work and there's
Hmm.
wedding work.
Fantastic.
It starts on now and it ends on June 15th.
The
The
last
first
entry. Hmm.
the first prize is a all expense paid trip to Alexandra Farms in Colombia. The second
Woohoo.
prize is 1,000 stems of garden roses. Third place is 500 stems. Then there's a Reader Choice Award for 1,000 stems, and then the top 20 finalists, each one gets 48 stems of garden roses for
Oh
free.
my God. Okay, so whew, think about this for a minute, you guys.
Holly
So
Chapel, Joey, and David Austin are the judges.
fantastic. So now think about this. Like, this is for you, my dear listener. All you have to do is just literally buy one bunch of roses, garden roses specifically. Go play, have fun with that. And then you may go to farm or get 1,000 roses or 500 or even 48. Think about the things you can do with that. I mean, really. It's, and honestly, just it supports the industry as a whole. It uplifts the industry and awareness about the flowers and all of that. It's just so much fun, and I love competitions. I just do.
And the garden roses don't have to be from Alexandra Farms. We're trying to promote the garden rose in general. So you can use your favorite garden rose. As a matter of fact, if you have a favorite garden rose that we don't grow, I want to know about it. So use that.
Very nice, very nice. I think one of my absolute favorite is the golden mustard. I just it's
You know, that's
such an
that's
underrated
it's the
flower.
color is fabulous, and that's why we
It
grow it.
is.
And on the label it says hybrid tea rose because it's not a garden rose.
Oh, is it really?
That was actually bred for the commercial greenhouse, but the color was
Ah.
so remarkable and it fit into our wedding line so much that we planted it. And of course, when we grow a non-garden rose and we have 3 or 4 of them, we cut it at a point of cut that's very open. We package it in
Mm.
a special way so that they don't get damaged in the trip. But when they're very open, you can see the color better and they will perform in the vase better.
Oh, very nice.
So our golden mustard is different from other people's golden mustard, but and we do label them as hybrid tea roses on the label, so we're not tricking anybody.
No, no problem. I absolutely just love the color,
It's a
and the
great
ones that
color,
I've been getting, I've gotten them. They were specifically from your farm, and they're fantastic
and
rose.
I
And I
bred
just
it.
Yeah, I
Um,
really feel like it's one of the underrated ones, though. It's the one that doesn't get showcased quite as much, and and again, it kind of leans towards the more of the rustic oranges and things like that, which is not the most weddings, really. But so that's so
no,
exciting.
but
But go
but
ahead.
skin colors are very much in fashion, and
Oh
the
yeah.
story there is that when I'm part of the committee that selects varieties, right? And so when we saw these dirty, muddy colors or skin tone colors, we say, "Ooh, what does it get married with that? It's not white, it's not creamy, it's." So one of the times when we had influencers at the farm, and maybe it was Holly and others, that they started looking at these trials and they started being attracted to these colors, and we were like, "No, no, no, that's no, don't look at that. That's not that's no, we've already rejected." And they would, "No, these are the ones we want you to grow." So we
Yes.
were late onto the party of these colors, but now we're launching a bunch of varieties in that color range. Right now we have 3 Wabara spray roses that are in those tones in the market. They're launched this year.
Ooh.
They're brand new. They're beautiful. I'll send you pictures. Um,
Please do so. I have not seen them
yes,
yet.
they're
It
brand new.
sounds
They're
fantastic.
on our webpage already, but we haven't really shipped too many of them out
Ooh,
there. And then we
I
have
have
a
to,
bunch of other. We've got Quicksand, of course, and we've got
right,
Amnesia, and we've got Tiara, and these are all regular roses, but the colors are very wedding oriented.
right.
Westminster Abbey is coming up now. That's
Yes.
a silver brownish color.
I absolutely love the tone on
Sahara
that.
Sensation is a sand color. So
Yes.
we've really built a little collection around these sand colors.
Oh,
Um,
that
so it's
sounds
going to be fun
good.
to use them for this wedding
Yes.
season.
Oh my God. I so want to visit your farm even more now. This is just not funny. So, Joey, you're working on, of course, you guys are always working on this fun project. So I know you're collaborating with Holly and you guys are creating some really interesting, I'm going to let you talk about it,
Yeah, I'm really
certification
excited about this
path, if
because
you will. Yes.
everything that we've ever done to get closer to designers and people that use our product has been mutually beneficial.
Of
Designers are
course.
thrilled to learn more about how the varieties work, how they smell, why this, and we're thrilled to learn what they're using them for and what colors they like. And it's just a great thing to work closer together. And so
Right.
Holly and I came up with an idea to have she has a platform to train florists in different things. So we came up with a program, and we're going to film it later this summer, where we're going to talk to people specifically about garden roses, and we're gonna certify them as garden rose designers after
Mm.
they take this course. And the course is divided into 3 parts. One part is the farm and the flowers,
Hmm.
right? So who's Alexandra Farms? Not so much that as about the varieties themselves. So which is our most white? Which is our most fragrant? Which is our
Mm.
largest head, our smallest head? So that florists really get an understanding. We have 60 varieties, and there's a test at the end. So this is going to be hard work. They're going to have to answer questions about, as if a bride were asking them, "Oh, I want this color, I want that color, I want this
Hmm.
fragrance, I want this shape." And so florists are going to get to know the varieties. The second
Hmm.
part is care and handling. Garden roses require a little bit more tender love and care than regular ones do.
Of course.
So how do you do if you're in the desert without a cooler? What do you do if you need to open them fast because they arrived late? All of these issues will be in the part of the care and handling, so that you feel comfortable working with them, and you can work with them in different environments. And then the last one is more Holly, and that has to do with how to design with garden roses, how to make them be the queen of the arrangement, what other flowers to use along with them, whether what colors go well together, and that sort of thing. So that's the three
Hmm.
part Alexandra Farms Garden Rose Design Certificate that we're working on, and it'll be open to any florists around the world. And they'll once they're graduates, they'll appear on our webpage as design as certificate holders, and so brides that come to our website can search in their areas to see which designer. And we're gonna probably have some sort of club, a buying club, so that they'll buy through the regular wholesalers, but they'll get points from us somehow, and either free
Hmm.
stems or trips or something. We hope to make it a little community of
Very nice.
Alexander Farms design
That is
certificate holders.
that's very exciting. That's
I'm very excited
something
about
new. It's very different. I haven't heard of anything similar to that that is sort of happening in industry. So I'm really excited to see how that's going to
it.
unfold.
Well,
Really am.
there's so many florists out there that love flowers, but haven't had a formal training on care and handling. Our care and handling for garden roses is going to apply to a lot of different flower types, right? So
Of
this
course.
is a way of us helping the industry get to provide their customers with better flowers, longer lasting flowers, better kept
Mm.
flowers.
Very nice. Thank you, Joey. So, what are the one of the biggest mistakes that you see that consumers, aka the florist consumers, do as they purchase their garden roses?
Well,
Because they are
there's
very different
yeah,
in handling, obviously, than the regular rose.
well, a lot of times, either because they're not um, knowledgeable about certain varieties, or because they're scared that garden roses might not last very long. A lot of times I see florists use our garden roses in a very tight blooming point.
Mm,
And they hardly have any value at that point because they're not large, they're not fragrant, and they're not beautiful. So
right.
so it's a shame to see people spend a lot of money on a stem of garden roses and then just have it in a bread bouquet as a very insignificant part of it. We urge people to receive the flowers on Wednesday for a Saturday event. Put them on in a cooler overnight, and then Wednesday take them out of the cooler and let them open. There's a cardboard wrap that comes in the bunches. Once they're put in water for a couple of hours, you can take that wrap off and let them open and grow. If on Thursday you're scared, oh my God, they're opening up too quickly, then you put them back in the cooler and you slow the process down. And the cooler shouldn't be at 55. The cooler should be at 35. Okay, 40, but no more than 40. A lot of florists have coolers at 55 and say, oh, I have a cooler. No, 55 is not cold. 55 is regular. And then on Friday make the designs, or on Saturday make the designs, and then you've got these beautiful, large roses that are showing their cup shape and their fragrance, and that's getting a bang for your buck. And that's part of, of course, the certificate and certain varieties open up a little faster than others. All the information is on our webpage, but once you get familiar with it, you can even order varieties that open quickly when you don't have enough time, and varieties that open slowly when you
Mm,
do have enough time.
so true. So
So
true.
that's, I
Thank
think,
you.
the biggest mistake.
So true. Yeah, I made that mistake. First time ever I laid my hands on, it was patience out of all flowers, and it bruised so fast. And I knew white flowers are delicate and so on. This was like 10 years ago. I was so new to this as well. I almost cried. It's just like, I paid so much money for this 12 roses and they're dead and I killed them. So, and I couldn't even blame anybody. I knew it was me who really didn't handle them correctly, and out of all ones, I feel like they're by far the most delicate ones. It seems, at least to me. But
Well,
so
in this
go
in
ahead.
this program, you'll learn about all the different white options you have.
Right.
And patience is a beautiful option, but it's one of a series of others. For example, in the David Austin line just came out with a Leonora white rose. That's fabulous. It's much hardier than the patience is, and when that's open, it's just so beautiful that maybe you're going to go for that one if you know that it exists.
True.
Now,
So
patience
true.
is good for certain things, and it has a better fragrance than Lenora. It's just
Of course.
a spicy, licorice kind of English rose smell that's fantastic. And if you get the patience to open up by treating it like we're going to teach you, it's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I love them all, honestly. Yeah, I don't think there is a single one that I can say, yeah, there isn't one. I mean, they all have their own little unique personalities, if you will.
They
So,
do.
yeah, they
They do.
they
And there's
really
a
do.
story to each one.
Ooh.
Everyone has a story of how we got it, or how we named it, or a lot of things. And that brings me to Princess Miyuki, is one of our most important white roses. And
Mm,
Miyuki is the name a Japanese customer recommended, because it means first snow, and it's a white rose. And so now
mm,
that you know that and you look at it, I think it's more meaningful to you, because you know that it
so
means
true.
first snow, not the second or the third snow. No, the first snow of the season, and that's the color of Miyuki. Isn't that neat?
That's
And it happens to
that's
be a rose
really
red.
that's just yeah, it makes it all that much more magical. It
Yes,
really does. I mean, it really, really does.
and they all have
Oh,
these stories.
thank
Princess
you.
Maya means night rain. which is also
Mm,
amazing because it's not rain, it's night rain. And the Japanese have that sensibility to a night rain is very different than a day rain. A night rain, you're at home, you're warm, and outside it's a relaxing rain. Well, in the day rain, it's you have to get to work and umbrellas, right? Night rain is a different feeling.
that's
And
so
Princess
true.
Maya comes from a breeder on the mountains above Hiroshima in Japan. And from the nursery, you have a view of the South China Sea or something that's not South China Sea, but it's another ocean that's blue, but it has mountains, islands of green. It's fabulous. And that's where
Mm.
Princess Maya comes from.
Joey, I have a suggestion. I think you should write a book about the story of the
Well, I'll,
rose.
I'll, I'll dictate and you write.
Okay, let's do that. Now, okay, and let me tell you why I'm saying this. You're talking about the story of a rose, but you're talking about it with such passion and such attention to detail and love. It's kind of like I'm like sitting here geeking out watching you talk about this. I'm like, I want to listen to this more. Like, I want to know the story of every single one of those roses. This is so interesting. I really, I'm not even kidding. I think you guys should release the story of the rose.
Well, we've always wanted to write a book. But the book has two parts to it. One is about the flowers, the roses, and these stories. But the
Of
other
course.
part is what designers do with them. And that
Mm,
is that is like the completion of the story. The other side of the coin, the whole sphere requires the designer to be a part of it. And
right.
when we worked with Tomas at the farm on the EMC project, or when we work with
Oh,
Holly
yeah.
or Sarah Campbell, they bring to life our roses in a beautiful way. And
Mm,
we both need to work together. They can't do it without our roses, and we can't design without them. And so when you put them both together, it's really magical. And so the book would
mm.
have both things.
I'm waiting. That's going to be amazing. So let's talk about EMC, as you mentioned EMC. So let's just dive right in. So you are going to be one of the presenters at their very first inaugural event, EMC Go Live, coming up in June. I'm so excited. And I know you have been supporting EMC from the beginning. When I was doing my EMC, there were always garden roses. And there were always garden roses specifically from Alexandra Farm. I mean, really have been. So you've been supporting education, and the growth of the industry from the beginning. So, but talk to us a little bit about the whole EMC event, the field trip that
What's the
happened in the farm.
Yes, I
Go
will
ahead.
tell you all about it. I'd love to, and I can send you some pictures and videos. But when is the June date of the EMC?
12, and now you put me on a spot. Now I gotta pull my records now to tell you this.
I just
It's
here.
June 12, 13. I promise you
Okay.
guys and when I post the links about this show, we'll have the correct date in there, but it's in the second week of June, right?
Yes,
Oop. Okay.
we can cut this part out, right?
Sure, why not?
'Cause we don't know
Well,
when
we
it
can.
is. I should know this. Oh my God.
I know. I do know. Hang on. We're gonna cut this part. Let me we're gonna pause for a minute and I'm gonna look for that date. I have it. I literally just send in my own headshots and bio and everything. Not good. It should be the 12, 13. Hold on. I have so many email chains happening all at the same time right now. One second. But because they haven't released it on their
13
thing
and
yet,
14th of July.
13, 14. Okay.
July, not June.
I keep saying June. Oh my God.
Scared
Whew.
me.
All right. So
Let me
we're
make
gonna
sure I wrote it down in my thing. July 13 and 14 EMG Go Live Event. Oh, okay, good.
ah I my calendar has been crazy. Trust me saying. Anyways, so now that we're gonna pick up from this point.
Oh, so EMC at the farm. So
Yes.
we've been working with EMC for a while. We always send them flowers for their training programs with their students and with their teachers. And one day Tomas and I were talking, and he was mentioning that he wanted to do a workshop with his core trainers and his core designers. And I said, why don't you come to Bogota and do it? And he said yes. So we made a list of things he needed: vases and tubes and plastic butterflies and all these things. And we flew them down, and we took a bus to the farm every morning, and we worked together. We had all 60 varieties arranged for them to just pick and choose whatever they wanted. We had all the vases we could come up with in another table. We had all the new varieties in another table where they can help us pick and choose which ones they liked. And then the final project was designing this beautiful fountain. We made some wire structure around it, and then he must have put the whole group put 3,000 flowers in tubes hung to this mesh around a fountain. And then rather than get the plastic butterflies, we found a place that gave us live butterflies right
Oh my
there,
God.
Mariposa de Colombia. We couldn't believe it. And so we brought these down, and you know that when you put butterflies in the cooler, they stay very still. They go into like a hibernation thing. But then when you take them out, they become much more active. So we took them right out of the cooler, and while they were a little bit drowsy, we set them around the fountain, and then we had this amazing moving floral butterfly design that was just incredible. And we have
Oh,
a video showing how we built it, and lots of pictures with the butterflies. And then
oh
the
my God.
butterflies are gone 2 or 3. Well, some of them stay there for 2 or 3 days, but then they're gone, and then the flowers wilt, and it's over.
Ah. And yet there is that video that lives, which if you send that over, we'll share this. And
Great,
I've seen that video through
great.
EMC, and it was just mesmerizing how beautiful all that came together. And so you'll be one of the presenters at EMC, and of course, considering that you've been supporting floral education in general and EMC specifically, I'm sure that was such an easy yes, almost no brainer. But can you tell us a little bit about what you'll be talking about, and what was really the driving factor for you to be joining this live event?
Well, I love Tomas, and I always want to support him and his things. I mean, remember that in my view, designers are a key part of my team. The way we're going to sell beautiful garden roses is with designers that make beautiful arrangements. So I feel like I'm part of the team that's going to take these flowers to the consumer, and Thomas is one of them. So I'm
Right,
thrilled to be able to support him. I think that the show is more about post-COVID world, not so much about garden roses. And of
right,
course, it's a crystal ball what the post-COVID world will be. I hope that all of the good things that came out from the COVID, like people buying more flowers in the United States for their homes,
true,
people valuing relationships more,
right,
and appreciating their health more, will last for a long time. But you never know. But
yeah.
I'm looking forward to the event. There's a few very interesting speakers, and we'll hear perspectives from all over the world. One of the great things about AMC is that they're so worldwide, right? So you get
Yes.
perspectives from everywhere.
I'm very excited. I'm going to be on a different panel at yours, talking about the smaller, more intimate wedding side of things. So I'm very excited about the event coming up. And a date correction, it is July 13 and 14. And I somehow have it ingrained in my brain. It's June for some strange reason. It is July 13 and 14, and we'll have it all in the links there for you guys. But be sure to get the tickets. Be sure to join this event because it is truly one of a kind. It is international. I mean, when I looked at the lineup, people from all over the world, if nothing else, just to get all that perspective from everyone, it's worth the admission price. So, yeah. Well, Joey, anything else in parting? Again, I mean, where people can find you and anything else you would like to share with our flower friends?
Well, we did launch this year our spray rose collection, which is pretty neat because we didn't have spray roses before. And mostly we did it because we found some colors in sprays that we didn't have in
Mm,
singles. And our Wabara line has 3 of those that are terrific. I think I talked about that already in this podcast.
No, you did not.
That
You
was
we've talked briefly, but yes, actually, I did want to ask you about the spray roses outside of the podcast. But you know what? If I have that question, somebody else has it. So please do tell. I've only
well,
seen one variety at our wholesaler, to be honest with you.
which
But
one?
it was it almost looked
Green?
like an espresso. No, it looked almost like an espresso brown ish.
Probably
It was
Sola in the
maybe.
Wabara brand.
I don't remember the name specifically, but it was very toffee, but like lighter color than toffee, almost looking.
Could be Sola.
It was beautiful. I was mad. I'm like, that's a spray rose? What? So yeah, I have not seen the rest of the varieties. I'm gonna go check it out
So
next.
all three of the Wabara spray roses that we launched
Yeah,
are in these taupe and brown and sandy
muted.
skin
Yeah.
color things, and the three of them are beautiful. They're brand new. And then we have a white called Blanche, and we have a pink called Wedding Rose Ever that are spray roses, but they're garden-like. They have a special shape or a fragrance. So those are the five main spray roses, but we have a sixth, which is called
Ooh.
Midori. It's a green variety that nobody likes but me.
Oh, I
It's
probably will like it once I see it.
well,
I usually like flowers
I
that nobody else does.
I hope there's lots of us out there because I think it's a bright green chartreuse spray rose that you can mix with
Ooh.
any color and it brings out colors. I think it's just a matter of time before people appreciate it. So it's still part of our line, even though nobody's given us too much positive feedback yet.
Hmm. Okay. So point taken. I'm gonna see if I can get my hands on one of those. Okay. All right. What was the name of the
Great.
green one again?
Midori. It's called Princess Midori. It's the princess
Princess
line,
Midori.
and Midori
Okay.
means green in Japanese.
Right. Okay.
So it's
Well,
Midori.
all right then. Well, thank you, Joey. This was a wonderful conversation. I literally feel like I can ask you all kinds of questions. I can talk to you all day about it. Like I said, I really want to hear the 60 tales about the roses. Truly, this has been a honor, and I really enjoyed having conversation with you. And thank you for
Oh, it
your
was my
time,
pleasure.
really.
And there's hours more of stuff if you ever want to follow up again.
Oh, 100%. I will hold you up
When
to
you come
that.
down
You
to the
know that.
farm, we'll have a chance to talk.
Yes. Oh, that would be wonderful. Thank you, Joey.
All right.
With
My
that
pleasure.
said, yes, we'll have a wonderful day. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you at the EMC event and hopefully one day at your farm.
Great. Look forward to it.
All right.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Bye bye.